Uh, um, Now, the need for occupational health coverage is clear. Only about 20% of workers worldwide have access to occupational health services, and almost 3 million people die each year from work-related disease and injuries, and more than 100 times that number sustain work-related injuries every year. So the other thing behind these figures is that there's an educational challenge. The places where the need is greatest often have the least educational capacity. Expanding our workforce requires increasing not just numbers, but also developing competent professionals that are equipped for modern contemporary occupational health practice. However, some themes recur globally with regards to barriers as to why there's a gap between the workers' need and occupational health service provision. First, there's a capacity and equity issue. We have too few training programs and faculty, and there's unequal access to education across regions. Secondly, we often have disciplinary silos. We don't share as much as we should. Multidisciplinary collaboration is increasing, but it is often more reactive than proactive. Seldom do you come across combined training, and seldom do you come across combined curricula. Thirdly, there are translation challenges. What works in one country or setting does not necessarily work in another. Those who are trained in the UK system may find themselves challenged when they have to apply a lot of some of their training in either Middle East countries or African countries, and you need to take account of the social settings when applying occupational principles that are learned elsewhere. Fourthly, uh, quite often the initial work and health conversations that the worker gets exposed to is not from the specialist. It may be from the primary care doctor, it may be from the HR managers, or it may be from engineers, it may be from social workers, it may be from all sorts of people. These people are often not trained for this task. And we know that there's an enduring impact of those first conversations. So we need to reach beyond just specialist training. Next, there's also a question of the quality of training. We find that the curricular and assessment methods vary widely internationally. And we need to start setting standards so that even when things are applied in different regions and settings, there's a benchmark of competence that we should expect and set for our global community. Finally, with regards to future readiness, our curricula must evolve to address psychosocial risks, climate change, AI, changing patterns of work. These challenges are global, and so the solutions also need to be global and incorporated into our training. Finally, we need to just to talk about SCITO's mandate. Our mandate is to raise the level of knowledge and skills in occupational safety and health everywhere. And this is done by connecting educators. We aim to share educational innovation and support countries, and we hope to develop future leaders in occupational health. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome today's speakers who come from a wide range of disciplines to help us answer this one question posed by the conference. Thank you, and I hope that as we listen, I encourage you to listen for ideas that can be adapted and opportunities to strengthen your understanding. So thank you, you're very welcome to this webinar. Stop sharing now.
Thank you, Dr. Landry. We will continue with our speakers. So, Dr. Fu, Javier, and Dr. Dante, you can please go on.
Sorry, I forget the microphone. Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Nori, for the introduction. Our first speaker will address the topic experience in occupational medicine programs in Italy. The specialization programs in Italy combine clinical, public health, and legal training with mandatory practical experience in health surveillance, toxicology, and industrial hygiene. Our speaker is a professor of occupational medicine at the University of Modena in Reggio Emilia, Italy, a professor of environmental health science at Florida International University, a physician specialized in occupational medicine. He has led major academic, clinical, and research programs in Europe and United States, included his work at the University of Brescia, Italy, and Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, where he directed the Division of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, the World Trade Center Data Center, and the NIOSH-funded Education and Research Center for New York and New Jersey. It's our pleasure to introduce you the first speakers, Dr. Roberto Lucchini. Doctor?
Thank you very much, Javier. Thank you, everybody. I'm Roberto Lucchini. I'm actually now in Miami, Florida. And so let me know if you can see my PowerPoint, everybody. Yes?
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
Yes. And obviously, thank you, Norville. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure. Now, I'm trying to use the laser point here. Hopefully, it's going to go. All right, great. So I have 15 minutes, correct? And so I'll try, obviously, to stay within my time. 20 slides should be okay. Let me start from my country. Let me start from Italy. This is a program overview of the occupational medicine programs, residency in occupational medicine, specialization, whatever you want to call it. The terminology is a little bit different across the countries, but basically the Italian approach, I will talk about it because actually this presentation gave me the possibility to check a little bit also comparing different European, non-European countries, and so hopefully I can provide some updates about the numbers, and not only the numbers, but also the quality of, hopefully, of the OCMED, occupational medicine program. So training is in the Italian structure is for the protection of workers' health and safety, of occupational diseases, and also health promotion in working environment. This component of health promotion is relatively recent as an introduction in the, let's say, in the regulatory framework. I would say after NIOSH started with the total worker health, then also various countries like Italy included the health promotion more formally within the residency program and the education and training for occupational specialists. So there's a competency-based educational model centered on the integration of academic and professional training, these two components. And of course, there are decree governmental, because the whole program is funded by the government. And I will get a little bit more into the details. These are important tools that everybody in the field in Italy has to know because they can update it. The accreditation of the program is regulated by national central standards, requirement, indicators, and so far. So who is funding? This is important. You can see here 92% the national government through the Ministry of University and Research, playing a central role also in overseeing and management. There's also a 5% of regional government. So regional government can add some positions in the program based on specific local needs assessment, because there's obviously differences between regions and components in one country. You can have the workforce not equally distributed, and I will also try to provide some numbers about that. Okay, this is a region decides the number every 3 years. The allocation is based on the employment scenario, health needs assessment, etc. There's also a small component of public, but also private institution This is the Italian scenario, different from, for example, from Spain. We were predominantly Spain. I don't know if there's any colleague from Spain, but I see that Spain has the opposite kind of funding sources, more from private institutions. Additional contracts as funded, okay, military, medical service, state police, and these kind of non-strictly governmental. Number of position. I think this is important. So basically 92% of the positions are from the national government, 5% and 3%. Sorry, this is a repetition. Here we go, the average number of the position per year. Here we go. Total available spot. This was 2026 this year. 185 residency contracts. This is new. Every year there's a new number. So 2026, this was the number, including state, regional, other public private funding for occupational medicine nationwide in Italy. 185. 29 Italian universities participating, offering School of Specialization in Occupational Medicine. So a little bit of a number. Again, the average number can be 6 on average per university, 6 new residents per university out of these 29, with variations, 14 in University of Turin in the north, and 1 in University of Perugia in the center, and University of Foggia in the south. So variations, but remember this number, 185 is quite high. This is again the number of new trainees every year in occupational medicine, right? Okay, next is what happens here. This is a distribution in Italy. You see north, central, and south. The north has 98 new position, 2026. Central has 36 position. South has 51. Interestingly, okay, you see the new number of new residents per year. Sorry, there's somebody with the microphone open. Please mute it.
I'm trying to turn it off on the
Thank you,
microphone.
Norville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you can see this percentage, okay? This is the percentage of new residents per year in the north. 53%, reflecting the national Italian workforce, which is 52% in the northern part of the country. And similarly, 20% of the new residents per year in the center, Rome, etc., the region, reflecting 21% of the workforce in the central part, and similar in the south, 26 and 27 and 26. So it's like trying to providing national funding for position, reflecting the needs assessment from the local territory.
Sorry to jump in, Roberto. We've lost your presentation.
Sorry, Doctor.
It's not moving. Sorry.
Yeah, your presentation, please, Doctor.
What do you mean it's not moving? I see it moving on my end.
It's not. We have the there's something superimposed on the screen. I can see it's moving behind.
That's very strange. Because
maybe you could.
I think you're sharing your other screen as well. It seems to be a double screen that's being shared.
That's incredible. I'm so sorry. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Now I'm gonna go back again if I can. That's very strange. Sorry, guys. Oh my goodness. I didn't know. And show. Okay, let me start again. Desktop. Well, right here.
Yes. Now it's working better.
Presentation mode, please.
What do you say? What do you say? Can you see that moving now?
It wasn't in presentation.
It's in presenter mode.
mode.
Can you see that moving?
Yes. But
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Claudina, you're breaking. I cannot hear what you're saying. I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Robert.
But it's
Claudina,
in presenter mode.
Yeah.
Can you see that moving now?
We can see, but it's not on the full screen.
Oh my goodness.
So it's on your presenter mode.
This is weird. I'm very sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. Here it is. Let me try again. Share. Nope. What about now?
Okay, we can see your PPT, but when you put the full screen, we only see your screen with the principal at the left side. Maybe if you try to share only the presentation, nor all the desktop.
That's what I'm doing. I'm actually.
Okay, and in this case, try the other form. Try to share all the screen of your laptop.
Sorry to butt in. If you go to the very top and you see where it says swap, right there, swap. Yeah.
Okay.
Then
perfect.
there you go.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Terrible, terrible. So now I hope you guys you see better, right? Is it moving? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Very sorry. I mean, I wanted to underline the 125 residency contract, okay? 29 university, 6 per university, and now the differences between the north, the center, and the south, okay? 98 position, this is 2026 in the north, 36 position in the center, 51 position in the south, reflecting the workforce in the north, 53 and 52, in the center and in the south, right? So now shifting to the salary, standard base is a standard base salary for all the medical specialties provided as a training grant. Okay, interestingly, Italy has this salary based in as a trainees. They are considered as trainees, whereas other countries they are considered as employees in hospital, etc. So this is exempt from taxes, but they have to pay for social security, medical pension, and university tuition. By the way, these are some number, 2025, 2026, first and second year, about 2,000 euros both position. This is in euros, this is in dollars, this is the salary for the Italian residents. Duration is 4 years, including theoretical, practical, professional training activities. To develop competencies, practice as a occupational physician with the National Health Service, private and public companies, public department, regulatory agencies. This is common to every country, I believe. Delivery is through training network of university department, hospitals, territorial health department, accredited specialist facilities through rotation. A lot of rotation. So the professional training include basic components, basic core of biostatistics, public health, forensic medicine, healthcare, core specialty, of course, OCMed, toxicology, industrial hygiene, ergonomics, work psychology, preventive medicine, occupational risk assessment, and a lot of related activity with other clinical and preventive disciplines, cardiovascular, pulmonology, dermatology, of course. A lot of professional training on site in workplaces, occupational health services, enforcement agencies, public health department, other facilities with training network. So a mix, obviously, for training aspect. Training through practice is a magic word in the Italian postgraduate medical education. They work typically 38 hours a week. Approximately 4 hours a week are dedicated to classes. Education, competencies in occupational risk assessment, surveillance, diagnosis, management of occupational diseases, workplace health promotion, collaboration with occupational safety professional. Also, a lot of effort in the AP part and the statistical method to occupational risk assessment, prevention, planning. I'm going to focus on Modena. Modena is known for this colleague here, Bernardino Ramazzini, who wrote the first book of the Morbis Artificum. Artificum considered the first treaty of occupational medicine in 1700. He started to do what we do today, obviously without any computer, but with his accuracy, determination, and strong dedication to our field. Okay, so in Modena, you can see all the courses, first year, microbiology, hygiene, preventive medicine, forensic, occupational medicine, musculoskeletal, of course, participation conference seminars, then more into pulmonology, cardiovascular, then third and fourth year, audiology, uh, imaging, dermatology, English language, interestingly. And okay, so overall 8 credits per year, which is 25 hours each, 200 hours. This is a good average. There's an average in the EU in this recent publication that we'll show you later, 24 hours. So Italy is well positioned in this kind of amount of hours. A lot of rotation, as I said before, accredited, and the accreditation is verified every year by this national observatory that is supposed to confirm accreditation in terms of the quality. You want to rotate, where do you want to rotate? So let's see before we authorize the rotation if that particular place is compliant with the standards, quality standard established by this national decree. So this is regulated centrally from Rome. Everything in most of the Italian rules are still actually depending heavily on central government. Occupational health services in public health department, these are the rotation in outpatient clinics, hospital and community services, toxicology, industrial hygiene labs, and also companies to shadow health surveillance and risk assessment. And look at this, in Modena, the residents are very happy they can go here to this particular company that actually has a fabulous, as you can imagine, fabulous program. They can afford a lot of health protection and health promotion. It may not be that realistic compared to other workplaces, but it's definitely something to see as a good model for the trainees. All right. Okay. So the requirement, there's a lot of requirement before they can finish the program. They have to do a lot of pre-employment, preventive medical examination. Everything is under supervision of the tutors. Workplace inspection, fitness for work evaluation, occupational risk assessment, clinical cases, workplace health promotion programs, participation in biological monitoring, in occupational AP surveillance, again, under supervision of mentors. Now, getting into the conclusion with some comparison, because I want to see how Italy is positioned to other countries. And I see the number, remember, 185 new position in 2026 is pretty high compared to Germany, 150, 200, more or less the same, but Spain also, France and Nordic countries. Tax-free scholarship in Italy, standard contract, base salary in the other countries. So these are, I would like to point out these recent reviews here about the European situation. This is just published, and these are interesting paper publication that can give you a better ideas of the of some reviews, but other than reviews, surveys about the situation of occupational medicine in European countries. And also there is a society, Union Européenne de Médecine Specialist, sorry, my French is not very good, representing 1.6 million medical specialists in the European Union and associated countries. You can visit this website to see what is being done also in terms of homogenization and trying to be more consistent in the training in occupational medicine. US is not very good at the moment. NIOSH, ERCs, I've been in one of those actually in New York and New Jersey. I know these programs very well. Funded by NIOSH, provided funding for all these ERCs spread in the United States. There are 18 of them. Primary funding of occupational medicine residency training. Due to inconsistent funding, today only about 20 to 23 accredited non-military programs remain. Resident volumes, 105 residents in 2023. I don't have more recent data. In training nationwide in the US, so a lower number compared to some numbers in the European Union in that respect. I've seen the UK. I know there's colleagues from the UK. They may say if this number are right or not. This is what I observed. 12 more or less new resident per year. A very robust, centralized program in the UK, overseen by the Faculty of Occupational Medicine. Australia, New Zealand, 2330, another very rigorous system governed by Australasian Faculty of Occupational Environmental Medicine. Asia, a lot of differences in Asian countries according to high versus low income countries. There's South Korea with 30, 40, India, 600. This is a high number for India. I don't know if there are colleagues from India that can confirm or not this number, but I understand this number is based on these 3 months AFIS programs, which means that India actually wanted to accelerate the number of specialists, but providing a kind of a shorter, not a 3 years or 4 years, like I mentioned for Italy, OCMED programs. Africa, very low, about 15, 20 in the entire continent, critical global shortage with the exception of South Africa. Latin America, interestingly, there's Mexico. I know there's our colleague here that is going to tell us something. I see Mexico jumping up with these numbers in the last few years, probably because the country is dedicating more effort into the training of occupational medical specialists. Brazil is around 20. I don't know if this is correct, but again, these are approximate number. Forgive me if they're not that accurate. Okay, so this about my presentation. I hope I could stay within the limit. I'd like to acknowledge my two colleagues from Modena, Alberto Modenese, which is the director of the school, and Fabrizio, who is the president of that European Union Association that you can visit through the website. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for my initial problems with the slides.
Thank you, Dr. Lucchini, for your presentation about the occupational medicine program in Italy. We invite the participant to prepare and write your questions in the chat because we will have time for questions and answers at the end of this webinar. Okay, now we are talking about, as we all know, occupational health nurses are key players in workplace safety and health, and they help provide primary prevention, and this is why training in safety and health is particularly important in countries with a significant shortage of healthcare professionals, as mentioned Dr. Ongunjami and Dr. Lucchini mentioned before, and an equal distribution of healthcare staff, such as Peru, for example. Our next speaker will share her experiences in the education and training programs for occupational health nurses. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Janet O'Neill. Ms. Janet O'Neill is a registered nurse in the UK and an occupational health nurse specialist. She has a Master of Science in Workplace Health and Wellbeing alongside her diploma in occupational health. She has a postgraduate certificate in medical education and has completed the Rosalind Franklin course in leadership from the NHS. She heads up the training academy within PAN Group and is the deputy head of the National School for Occupational Health in NSOH. Ms. Janet has been working in occupational health for the past 20 years in the UK, having undertaken various roles within delivery, clinical governance, and compliance. Mr. Janet is on board of the Council of Work and Health, the board of the College of Work and Health, and is a trustee and director of the CARET IOH and a committee member of the SOMM Leadership Academy. So please, we'll turn over the floor to Ms. O'Neill.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here today. I feel really honoured to be part of such an eminent group of people. So I'm going to do my best to share. Let me just share my screen and see if that works. From current slide. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
It is saying it's sharing, so let me just try again. Let's try again. Go to slideshow.
Yes, we can see something now.
Is that better?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, now,
brilliant.
yes.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So I'm going to chat about the nursing education and occupational health. So I'm specifically looking at occupational health, and that's our experiences from the UK and our future challenges. So it certainly hasn't been a straightforward journey over the last goodness knows how many years in relation to workforce development and training. And it certainly is a journey that we're still on. So we're still on that road, if you like. And what we noticed quite a few years ago, 10 plus years ago, that there were declining numbers of people or nurses coming into occupational health. Plus we have an aging nursing occupational health nurse population. And I think obviously that's still the case. I think that's still the case across the board and in any workplace. But where we sort of reached a climax, if you like, was in 2007, where there was a loss of confidence in the Nursing and Midwifery Council. That's our GMC, that's our regulator. In the SCIFN occupational health course, and SCIFN stands for Specialist Community Public Health Nursing, because it's based in public health. And the reason for that loss of confidence is because it's combined with both school nursing and health visiting. So specialist nurses that are looking after the under 18 population, whereas we're looking after the over the over 18 population. And although public health is certainly a big part of what we do, it's not all of what we do. But the lack of precision in the requirements that the NMC was asking. So there could be a huge range in quality. So there were declining numbers of people doing the SCIFN occupational health course, and therefore numerous courses just closed down. It wasn't just that, it was also practice placements would be very difficult, because as you can imagine, a regulatory qualification will require some element of practice placement, as has been discussed already. And finding those practice placements was difficult. And we can see that that's because of the shortage of occupational health nurses in departments meant that they didn't have the time really to supervise people. So that big reduction in training providers occurred. And then that led to a split in that a couple of courses actually opened up that were not regulated by the Nursing and Midwifery Council. So they were completely separate and regulated, accredited by the universities and developed by specialist nurses, all based on a piece of work that was done as a collaboration by the and supported by Public Health England, where we built a sort of framework of training for occupational health nurses, and that was meant to have some consistency for the NMC course, but it enabled then the non-NMC courses to open. So now we have two different ways of training: the regulated pathway and the non-sort of regulated pathway, with the non-regulated pathway becoming more and more and more popular because it's based specifically on occupational health. So only occupational health modules, no joint learning whatsoever. So you can see that was very attractive to a lot of occupational health nurses. But also another challenge that we have had is, and I've gone backwards here, but that awareness of occupational health, and that's still a big challenge that we have in our undergraduate training. There's just no mention of occupational health. That is changing slightly now, in that there was no, and now maybe there's a very small percent. And even our own, nursing profession confuse us with occupational therapists still to this day. So that awareness is lacking. And we've had quite a few pieces of research undertaken in relation to the occupational health workforce. As you can see, I've popped them up there, and that included via the government. Let me just move on. But we have had some solutions. So one of the first solutions was the Faculty of Occupational Medicine extended the diploma in occupational medicine, which was the foundation qualification for doctors, to nurses, calling it the Diploma of Occupational Health Practice. And that has been a great entry into occupational health, enabling nurses to concertina their learning. It's about 50 hours of taught, and plus, of course, probably a lot more of that's self-directed. But the exam is the same as the doctors, or very similar in that it's a multiple choice, and there is a portfolio and a viva. So really good standard for that. Plus, a few years ago, the NMC realized that actually their course was not adequate for any of the health visitors, the school nurses or occupational health. So there was a huge revision and a massive change with a lot more detail around what needed to be taught in there. And that was, again, a collaboration from all of us in occupational health. So that has made a big difference. And plus that acceptance of different education pathways so that people can choose what's right for them, as opposed to just having to go down that course. And then we've had a recent addition of new higher education courses that are not regulated, and looking at education differently. So one university's added in a sort of titrated way of learning, where you can build on a foundation in occupational health over a 5-year period. And another has brought in an MSc course, which is based on advanced practice pillars, which is very innovative. So we're having some innovation in courses. We still only have 5 universities that deliver the regulated courses, but the quality of that has really improved markedly. And where they've changed is they're not just delivering it face-to-face now, they're delivering online options. So, for example, Wales doesn't have a university that delivers a regulated qualification, so they tap into an online version from an English university. And Scotland have got both the non-regulated and the regulated course, and a new diploma that's actually just started, just opened its doors maybe about a month ago. So you can see we're moving forward now, we're opening. We've just built, it's not been published yet, but the National School of Occupational Health have built a framework for in-house competency training. So often nurses will be employed by organizations, and then they'll be trained in-house. And some of those occupational providers or departments have a structured framework of training, but lots don't. And of course, occupational health in the UK is delivered in-house or by providers ranging from those that have got thousands of employees to those that have self-employed. And alongside this, we've also had the Faculty of Occupational Nursing have built an accreditation scheme. So similar to the Faculty of Occupational Medicine sort of framework, in that you can become a fellow. And that has also that will be launched soon. The Faculty of Occupational Health Nursing has moved into the Society of Occupational Medicine, so they've been redoing the website. So that's going to be launched imminently. And then, of course, we have the College of Work and Health, who are just opening their doors, and they're going to be doing a register of clinicians, which I think is absolutely excellent, considering because of the way we're trained, nobody has any real idea of how many numbers of occupational health nurses are actually working in the field in the UK. We know how many do the regulated qualification, but we don't know the broad. And of course, there's loads that are working without a qualification at all. And something that's really helped is that the National School and the Faculty of Occupational Health Nursing actually built a document, which I've put a link to there, called Qualifications and Titles, so that people really understand actually what they can be called with each qualification. And it gives it quite a lot of structure, and that college is going to work on that and build on that, which is, again, really positive. And I've been tracking, as part of my role at the National School, tracking the numbers that are going through education, and we're definitely tracking up. Saw a 15% increase in the numbers going through education from 2024 to 2025, which I think is really positive. And the fact that new courses are opening means that the market is buoyant. People are seeing that the worth, if you like. So just to take you through how we place our nursing education, you have your baseline occupational health knowledge. So that'll be your sort of pre-learning. We've got some NHS modules on pre-learning, some introduction to occupational health courses. Society of Occupational Medicine are actually building one at the moment. The Outward Partnership has got one, and some have also built an OH Basics, which is a series of webinars that people can tap into as and when they like. So that's that sort of baseline, which we're hoping people will do in order to be able to know what they're coming into when they come into occupational health. And then you've got that core foundation knowledge, which is the Diploma in Occupational Health Practice with those exams, plus our new framework. And that new framework, the 7 modules, which cover all of the elements like ethics, health surveillance, case management, etc., can all be done individually or can be done in a whole. And they're meant to complement the higher education, not to replace. Of course, specific industry knowledge is really important, but we don't have a lot around this. There's some great forums and support groups, like for universities, for councils, and for railway, but there isn't a lot of specific industry training. It's good to see that that's changing, and that there's recently been a book published on occupational health in the police, which is really positive. And then, of course, we have our specialist profession, which is that higher education, that BSc, postgraduate diploma, MSc. We did have an apprenticeship route to that, but unfortunately the government withdrew that last year, so there's no apprenticeship route. So something to consider is that if you don't work in the NHS and you get NHS funding, then the only way you get funded for qualifications is either through your employer, which only a few employers fund, or self-funding. So there's a lot of self-funding in nursing occupational health, which shows a real commitment. And then, of course, we have nurses going on to doing a huge myriad of different qualifications. For example, mine in workplace health and well-being, psychology, compliance, public health, education, research, etc. And this is really where our leadership comes in. And we do foster a lot of self-employed workers and a lot of small businesses, as well as bigger businesses that grow out of that self-employment. So there's some great leadership, but with LONRE and the Society of Occupational Medicine Leadership Academy, we're working really hard to increase that as well. So what do we need in the UK? What are our challenges? We still need quality. We haven't reached that quality yet that we want. We're definitely on the way. We're putting things in place in order to be able to support that quality. But as the HSE, Health and Safety Executive, the regulator is noticing, there are still pockets of really bad practice. So we're hoping with all of this training that we're putting in place, the frameworks that we're putting in place, that the quality will improve. That's a huge focus for all of us. Then that growing the workforce, it's fantastic to have training, but if we don't have the people to do the training, then we're not in a very good place. And that's something I've been working really hard on since I've been in my current role. And we have built a mentorship program with the Society of Occupational Medicine, where we are supporting, and that's from a multidisciplinary workforce, supporting people to come into the profession. And we've got, I think it's around 84 mentors now that are signed up on the books. And of course, they're all doing it voluntary. So I feel really proud of that. And it's definitely making a difference. Plus, of course, although we don't have that awareness in universities, we do know that undergraduate placements make a huge difference. And so there's been a lot of encouragement between the universities and the occupational health departments to get together and to create placements within occupational health. And to do that, we've built a toolkit so that makes it easier for those occupational health departments. It's not such a big deal to take on an undergraduate placement, and more are doing that. And we've even had nurses that have done a placement in occupational health and then come straight to work in occupational health from that placement as soon as they've qualified. So it definitely makes a difference. And then we have just done masses of awareness, loads of blogs, webinars, introduction to occupational health days with some career days, which used to be just for doctors. They're now for nurses and allied health professionals. Just everywhere we go, we're looking to raise that awareness, writing for general nursing magazines. And we are seeing a difference. We can't track the numbers, although we are putting in place, or have now put in place, a way of tracking through the mentor scheme. But obviously that doesn't track everywhere. That's just one area. But even things like regular blogs with the nurses.co.uk. And of course, we still need to do a lot of work around growing the leadership within occupational health nurses, especially around delivering, excuse me, good quality care. So any new idea that anybody comes with, we are exploring. And that's me. I'll just go on to the last slide, which just says, we've come a long way, we've still got a way to go, but it's a bright occupational health nurse future. Excuse me, spoke very fast there.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Neill, for your presentation. Okay. Please, we invite the participants to prepare and write your question in the chat, because we have time for questions and answers at the end of this webinar. Okay. Our next topic is education programs in occupational toxicology in Latin America, experience from Mexico. Occupational toxicology in Latin America is a fundamental and evolving discipline driven largely by Mexico, through graduate programs as institutions such UNAM and specialized toxicology certification such offered by SunTox. Our next speaker is a physician specialist in job medicine and certified as a specialist in safety and risk prevention. He is Master of Science on Health with a specialty on Health at Work, a Master on Toxicology, and Doctorate on Science and Health at Work. He is a Fellow on American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine, ACOEM. He is the Medical Director of Procter & Gamble for Latin America, with wide experience as Professor on Health and Work in Mexico. He has been ICOH National Secretary for Mexico for the triennium 2000-2006, board member of Medichain, board member of the International Commission of Occupational Health 2006 and 2012, and past president of the National Federation of Health at Work. It's my pleasure to introduce you, Dr. Jorge Morales Camino.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction, and hello everyone. I want to share my presentation now. You allow me to do that? Let me see. I cannot open it. Okay, we'll see. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see that.
Okay,
Oh.
wait a minute. Now, okay?
Okay, it's okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Please, yes.
Yes, sure. Okay, we will talk about occupational health in Latin America and mainly focus on Mexico. We have still having the same issues that we all have in most of the countries in the world. The asbestos exposure, the number of deaths, the number of tons we use in asbestos. We don't produce asbestos in Mexico, but it is coming from Canada and US and some other countries. Even though in those two countries the use of asbestos is not allowed, they can export the asbestos to other countries. This is the number of deaths, 5472 deaths that we have in a period of 1988 to 2022. But that is only for the people who are formal workers, not the informal. We'll see what's the problem with that. Also, we have main issues with the silicosis, the silica exposure. We have many cases, and these cases are only for the formal workers covered by the Social Security, but we have a big issue with informal workers. We have also a lot of heavy metals like lead, manganese, cadmium, mercury that we use very often in Mexican industry. And again, the informal workers are the issue because they are very exposed and they don't have any support from occupational medicine and occupational health or safety or industrial hygiene, etc. The welding fumes, we don't have a lot of numbers, but we have in every single factory, we have this kind of welding fumes, but don't have the numbers of affected employees also. Unfortunately, the statistics are not so good. We have a lot of use of diesel in Mexico. The number of tons used per year is 14 million tons in different type of transportation and companies. And also a lot of people exposed. Other main issues, pesticides, because we not only produce in Mexico a lot of pesticides, but also we import a lot of them. And people exposed in this number, for instance, between 2000 and 2021, we have also 8,000 people dying for acute pesticide poisoning. And also there are a lot of emerging toxicology issues that we have. For instance, now many companies of working with nanomaterials coming to Mexico. As you can see here, the use of nanotechnology and the companies using technology is growing very fast in Mexico. And from the regional standpoint, along with Brazil, Mexico is one of the leading countries in nanotechnology research, development, and patents generation in Latin America. So that's also a main issue. And mainly focus of those companies are in the New Orleans state, which is in the north of the country, and Mexico City. We have also issues with the lithium now using for batteries and so on, because we have three main areas of production in Mexico, one in the northeast, in the northwest, one in the west, is Baja California, and one in the west in Sonora, and two very close to the center in San Luis Potosí, Zacatecas. Those are the three main deposits of lithium in Mexico. And there are a number of Chinese companies producing batteries in the north of Mexico also. The other issue is the perfluoroalkyl substances, which the issue is that they cannot be destroyed, they are not eliminated. And we have many people like firefighters or people working in the chemical industry with exposure to that type of chemicals. That is another big issue. And also, of course, the endocrine disruptors is another issue of exposure in Mexico. In these two articles, it's clear that there are many Mexican workers with occupational exposure coming from the agriculture, pesticides, manufacturing solvents, and industrial waste. And according with these authors, they are producing in those people exposed gonadal dysfunction, irregular menstrual cycles, and impaired fertility. So that's another issue also. And at the end, the climate change also is a big issue. And one of the best examples to show the impact of the climate change in the workers is the called Mesoamerican nephropathy, which is a kind of epidemic of nephropathies in many Latin American countries, mainly focused in Mexico and Central American countries such as Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Panama. And this is a kind of kidney disease in three different ways: in acute kidney injury, chronic kidney injury, and kidney formation of kidney stones. So all those are issues coming from this exposure. And what's the relationship of this with toxicology? Well, what it has been seen in most of the articles consulted is that the chronic dehydration impairs the kidney ability to excrete toxins effectively, of those toxins of people exposed to chemicals in the work environment. And on the other hand, the combination of head stress with the toxic exposure, for instance, arsenic substances or cadmium, they produce loss of kidney function. So there are two issues. One is that we cannot eliminate the substances with that kidney damage of kidneys, and the other issue is that together with the some chemical substances, the impact on kidney is higher. There are many other issues I cannot speak today because the time we have for this presentation, but there is the complex chemical mixture is a big issue, the artificial intelligence semiconductors and chip manufacturing, the microplastics and nanoplastics, the 3D printing, all the substances that are formed in that type of work, the fumes and particles from energy transition, etc. But what we have to face that issue, and that's the main information I want to share with you. What is the postgraduate training in toxicology in Mexico? The main institution working on that is CIMBESTAF, which is a technological institute of the Technological Institute of Mexico. And this CIMBESTAF has a master's degree in toxicology, but the main focus is environmental toxicology. Not too much in occupational toxicology. Well, environmental, of course, has some applications in occupational, but their focus there is mainly environmental toxicology. They also have a PhD degree in toxicology, but it's again focused on environmental toxicology. So these are mainly the focus of those institutions, of that institution, in the master degree and the PhD degree. There is another master degree in the University of Aguascalientes, but they are very focused on biotechnology. Biotechnology much more than another thing, not occupational toxicology. And a PhD in science with focus in pharmacology and toxicology of the University of Nuevo León, but they are more linked to pharmacology issues than to environmental or occupational toxicology exposure. And we have also this is another institution, the Center of Investigation in Food and Development, but they are focused much more on food toxicology for companies working or producing types of canned foods and so those kind of things. So this is the main toxicology masters and PhD, but we have now recently 3 residence programs on toxicology, clinical toxicology in the hospitals. One is in one of the private hospitals in Mexico, which is Hospital Ángeles Lomas, and that is for exclusively or medical toxicology. The other one is in Puna Public Hospital, in the Juárez Hospital. It's the same, exactly the same program, but in different hospitals. One is Los Angeles, one is this Juárez Hospital in Mexico. By the way, to the students of that hospital is where I teach some occupational medicine and environmental. And we have this other one is in the social security for the workers working for the government. And in this institution, they have also it's exactly the same program of medical toxicology. So this is very good because we have many issues with not only occupational, but with exposure to the environment of many toxicants. And one of the things I want to share with you is that we have, for instance, the problem is that those three specialization degrees sites are located in Mexico City. And we have, for instance, this problem, the high mortality we have in Mexico for scorpion sting, mainly in the state of Guerrero and Nayarit. And the mortality, even though it's going down, is still very high. And mainly the issues of that scorpion stings are coming from working activities like cooking, doing housework, maneuvering clothes, harvesting, or maneuvering goods. And that's a big issue. And this author of this is not Dr. Asensio Villegas from the state of Guerrero, has demonstrated that if people use gloves, one glove or two gloves, the number of or the risk of scorpion stings in the hands comes down very dramatically. And you can say why, if that is true and there is evidence of that, why people don't use gloves all the time, even though we have two official Mexican standards requiring that in the agricultural activities, where the use of personal protective equipment is mandatory. Then what is the issue? Why, if there is a regulation, if there is an issue, why people are not following that rule? And the issue is that in Mexico, we have a very high informal employment. And that creates a lot of disparity between the formal workers and the informal workers, because most of the occupational medicine physicians, industrial hygienists, and safety engineers are working for the people working in the formal sector, because there is not any program from the government to cover that informal sector. The social security, and the oil company, which are the hospitals where more or the occupational medicine students come from, they only cover this formal population. And the problem is the informal population. So that is the big issue. And as Dr. Lanre Ogenjani commented at the beginning, that's the disparity. That is the big issue, how we can cover those people who don't have social security. They don't have any type of medical coverage. So that is the big issue. And well, this is the information I want to share with you. Thanks so much. If any question, I'm ready to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Jorge Morales, for your presentation. Please, we invite the participants to prepare and write your question in the chat, because we will have time for question and answer at the end of this webinar. To review the experiences of education programs on industrial hygiene from UK and how it can help us to improve our programs in Latin America, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our next speaker, Mr. David O'Malley. Mr. O'Malley has 49 years as an occupational hygienist, which includes 10 years in-house for large companies, 35 years as a consultant, and 4 years as a regulator with HSE. At the British Occupational Health Society, the BOHS, he was awarded with a diploma in 1985, and he has 19 years in various governance roles. He is former registrar of the faculty, former president of BOHS, and 2 years as employed examiner for BOHS. Now, I will turn over the floor to Mr. O'Malley, please.
Okay, thank you. I will try to share my screen now.
It's all right now. We can see it.
Okay, good. Oh, I can't. It's gone. Where is it?
Yes.
Is that on full screen now for you?
Not yet. Now, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk about how we have qualifications within BOHS, which is our professional body for occupational hygienists in the UK. And I don't know how to move on the screen. I'm used to doing this in Teams, not in Zoom, I'm afraid. So.
David, I think Novil is actually sharing for you. So
oh, right. Okay.
You just need to tell him to
okay.
Next slide,
well,
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I put in this slide about my history, but since you've already had that introduction, I can move on to the next slide then, please. Okay, so we have a number of different professional levels of practice in occupational hygiene in BOHS. I'm going to start with the top one, the highest level, which is the Diploma of Professional Competence in Occupational Hygiene, which is a bit of a mouthful, so we normally abbreviate it to DIPOH. That's our top professional award, and those who get that award can become chartered members of the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene. And then a few years later, if they do something significant for our profession, they can be awarded fellowship, so they then become a chartered fellow of the Faculty of Occupational Hygiene. We are a chartered body, a royal chartered body, and so those who get this top qualification are chartered occupational hygienists. In order to get that qualification, they have to have a minimum of at least 5 years of experience in occupational hygiene practice, and they have to go through 3 stages or 3 steps in the diploma assessment process. The first step is they have to complete a professional experience portfolio, or PEP, in which they outline how they are meeting the various competencies that we have set in a competency framework document for that level of practice. They then have to do a researched essay, or in many cases, they have to do a researched essay. And finally, they have to do a diploma professional discussion. So experienced practitioners like myself form an oral panel, and we ask them questions about how they meet the competencies that are required at the diploma level. And at that level, a lot of those competencies are soft skills of how they would manage situations, complex ones, rather than the technical skills, which we'll come on to in a bit later. So there are 2 pathways to the diploma. There is an accredited master's degree route, pathway 1. And so if they graduate from one of the accredited master's degrees, then they're exempt from doing the researched essay. That's a smaller proportion of our candidates. Most of them go through the Cert-OH route, which is what I'm going to talk about on the next slide. So if I could move on to that, please. Thank you. So this one is the Certificate of Operational Competence in Occupational Hygiene, which we abbreviate to Cert-OH. Those who get the certificate are eligible to become a licentiate member of the faculty, and so they can put LFOH after their name. In order to do that, they must have a minimum of 3 years experience in occupational hygiene. And then there are 3 different pathways that they could follow. The vast majority follow the modular route of taking 6 M500 series modules, which I'll come on to a little over the next few slides. Some will do an accredited bachelor's degree. You notice the diploma was master's degree. With the certificate, it can be a bachelor's degree. Or they can do a certificate core examination. Whichever of those 3 routes they follow, they then have to do a professional learning portfolio, PLP, to document what they've learned since they took their courses. And then they have to pass a Cert-OH professional discussion. And that's the one where we would test their technical skills. So we will put them into a workplace scenario and ask them how they would deal with that situation across the broad field of occupational hygiene practice. So there will be 6 topic areas that they will get questioned on in that professional discussion. If you could move on to the next slide, please. So these are the courses that most candidates follow, although, as I said, there are 2 other pathways. So these, a number of these are what we call core modules, so they have to do these 4. Each one is normally a 1-week in-person course, but in more recent years, particularly since COVID, online versions of these courses can be run as well. They tend to be scheduled over a longer time because you can't really have people having to concentrate on a computer screen for 8 hours a day, 5 days continuously. We have to practice what we preach about DSE risks. So the first of these is M501, which is the measurement of exposures to hazardous substances. And then we have M503, which is noise measurement and its effects. M505, the control of exposure to hazardous substances, and M507, the health effects of hazardous substances. So they have to take all those 4 courses to apply for Cert-OH via pathway 1. And they must, as I'll talk about in a minute, it's not BOHS that runs the courses, it's training providers. But we are the ones who develop the exam and mark that exam. So we are the awarding body for the qualification. If you can move on to the next slide, please. So as well as those core modules, we also have 3 optional modules. Again, they're 1-week courses generally, and they have to do any 2 of those courses. So thermal environments, asbestos and other fibers, and ergonomic essentials. They can choose which 2 out of those 3 they do. They will also get questioned on all of those topic areas in their professional discussions. So they will have questions on all of the 4 core module topics, and also questions on 2 of the optional modules, but they may not be the optional modules they've taken courses in. So they need to know the basics when they come before the oral panel in order to pass. Okay, if we move on to the next slide, please. So these courses are run by what we call approved training partners, abbreviate to ATPs, and we approve those training providers and also approve the tutors who are doing the teaching. So that's how we control the quality of the training of these students in occupational hygiene. We have ATPs in the UK, obviously, but we also have ATPs located in various other places around the world. One of our most active, for example, is based in India. So BOHS run the examinations and then issue certificates for those who pass. We also issue peer-reviewed student manuals for each of those courses, and they're downloadable for free from the BOHS website to anyone who wants to have them. So one thing I would emphasize is, being British, everything is in English, I'm afraid. So materials and examinations are all in English. We do have a reasonable adjustment policy. So if students have, where English is not their first language, are allowed a longer period of time for the examination to take allowance of that. Okay, and the next slide, please. So now we're coming down to awareness of occupational hygiene practice, and we're in the process of we have developed a basic principles of workplace health protection course. It's not yet available, but it will be soon. It's an online course that we made available to download, and anybody will be able to work through the material at their own pace when they have time available. So we think this will be of benefit to related professionals. So doctors, nurses, safety professionals who want to know a bit more about occupational hygiene. And hopefully we would like them to incorporate that into CPD requirements, so they understand the basics of occupational hygiene practice. We also have an M200 basic principles of occupational hygiene course that's taught by our approved training providers. So it's very similar material. So if people want to go on a course, they can do the M200 course. But the idea of this e-learning video is that people can be able to do it at their own pace when they have time available. And I'm not sure if there's a link there to a promotional video that I'm hoping that might, oh no, is it Norville that's got it? Maybe you can click on that link if it's yours.
Yes, let me try to connect with the link. I will be back as soon as possible.
I'm hoping it works. If not, people can look at it later, maybe.
I will
Maybe
share again the picture, the screen. I will share the screen.
It's only just over a minute, the video, so it won't take long. Okay, that's it. If you can just press and maybe put it on full screen. If you go to the bottom right, where the arrows are. Log in to save this video for later. I don't hear anything. Have you got the sound?
Can you hear the video?
No, really. You need to select the option to share with sound.
Okay, let me check. Does the audio work?
Novel, sorry, you probably need to exit and share again. I can try from my end.
Yeah, now it's working.
Yes,
Okay.
working.
Understanding the hazards that can affect people every day. Introducing Basic Principles of Workplace Health Protection, a comprehensive new e-learning program from BOHS, based on the full content of the M200 manual. Designed for health and safety professionals, managers, and anyone seeking a systematic understanding of the prevention of ill health at work, the course explores the key principles of occupational hygiene and workplace health protection through 12 engaging modules. Learners discover how workplace hazards arise, how exposures can be assessed, and how effective control measures can be used to protect workers.
HAVS is really debilitating and really damaging to people who suffer from this disorder. The problem with HAVS in the workplace is that people are still being exposed to it, yet it is 100% preventable.
Topics include hazardous substances, biological hazards, asbestos, noise, vibration, thermal environments, ergonomics, and professional practice. The course is designed to keep learners engaged while building practical, real-world understanding. Hosted on the BOHS online learning platform, Basic Principles of Workplace Health Protection is coming soon.
Oh, I think it's on a loop. It'll keep playing.
In the workplace starts with understanding the hazards that can affect people.
Okay,
Thank you
that's
very
the
much,
end of
David.
my presentation. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions later.
Roberto has reminded us that we need to speed up in the chat. So
I'm sorry,
thank you for
Lame.
that.
The problem is that I would like to contribute to the discussion, but I cannot stay much longer. That's why I'm concerned about it.
Understood. Thank you for that. We do need to
Thank
speed
you.
up. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Malley, for your presentation. Please, as you comment, we invite you participants to prepare your questions in the chat for the end of this presentation. Okay? We continue. This year, the International Labour Organization promotes to build healthy psychosocial workplaces, especially to commemorate the World Day for Safety and Health at Work. So mental and psychosocial risk factor management should be a priority for occupational health and safety professionals. Our next speaker, Dr. Jalees Razavi, is an occupational and environmental medicine specialist physician based in Calgary, Alberta, with over 30 years of international clinical experience across the industrial, healthcare, and technology sector, including senior role with Imperial Oil and ExxonMobil, and extensive work in Saudi Arabia. He is president-elect of the Occupational Medicine Specialists of Canada and serves as a medical consultant of WCB Alberta. He holds academic appointment at the University of Alberta Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry and at West Virginia University. And he sits on Canada's National Plan of Health Workplace Wellbeing and on the Royal College of Physicians of Surgeons of Canada National Advisor Committee on Wellbeing and Human Resources. Dr. Razavi is a recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award for both the American College of Occupational and Environmental Medicine and the Society of Occupational Medicine UK. He is the author of The Anatomy of Our Own, How the Modern World Exhausts the Human Body and How He Heals, and the originator of the Razavi Occupational Health Iceberg, ROHI, a framework for understanding the under-recognition of occupational disease. His current work focuses on system thinking in occupational health, employer duty of care, and the emerging occupational health consequence of digital exposure. We invite Dr. Jalees Razavi with a topic, Education and Training Program in Psychosocial Risk Factor and Mental Health at Work. Dr. Razavi?
Thank you all. I hope that my presentation is going to be informative. I know that you folks are already well aware of the issues. I'm as my colleagues, very familiar with Teams. So bear with me here because let me see if I can share. Let me go here and go share now. And let me know if you can see the slide.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, goodness. I was worried it's not going to happen, but that's good. Okay, so I'm going to be talking to you about the education and training programs in psychosocial risk factor and mental health. So good afternoon or good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. I'm grateful for that. So I'm just the navigation is going to be interesting. Here we go. Okay. So the reason I've been invited to talk to you about is, I guess, my involvement with mental health at the Canadian level. Before I start, let me put a number on the table that I would like it to sit for a second. This year, a Canadian Standards Association, CSA, commissioned a study estimated the cost of poor mental health to the Canadian economy at roughly $180 billion a year. And about $110 billion of that was carried by the employers. $110 billion, that is not a health system number. That's a workplace number. So the question I want to work through with you in the next 15 minutes isn't whether mental health belongs in occupational health and safety. That argument is over. The question is how we build the education and training that actually moves the needle. What's already been figured out internationally and here in Canada, and where people like us, the occupational medicine specialists, fit into all of it. So let's get on. All righty. It's interesting. Okay, here we go. Are you able to see my second slide?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I have 5 objectives for my talk, and I'll keep them plain. My first objective is I want us to be on the same page about what we even mean by a psychosocial risk factor, because the term gets used loosely by everybody. You can read it in newspapers, it can be on CNN, it can be on Fox News, it can be on whatever, but everybody means it differently. The second is why training? Why not just policy or an app or an EAP phone number? The third is I'll walk you through an international scaffolding and then bring it home to the Canadian standard because they're closer than people think. The fourth is, and this is the part I care about the most, what separates a training program that changes behavior from one that generates a completion certificate. And the fifth is where we come in, because if we're not at the table when these programs get designed, then we tend to see the effects that they actually get designed badly. So let's establish why this is urgent, because the where are we now story starts with the scale. Globally, the WHO and ILO put it at around 15% of working age adults living with mental disorder, and depression and anxiety by themselves drain about $1 trillion out of the world economy every year, mostly through lost productivity. 12 billion working days gone annually. In Canada, the picture is just as stark. 1 in 5 of us experience a mental health issue in any given year. 500,000 Canadians miss work every single week because of mental health illness. And close to 1/3 of all disability claims, short and long term, trace back to mental health. Many of them go on for months or even years. But here's the number I want you to hold on to. Back in 2011, the Mental Health Commission of Canada pegged the economic cost of about $50 billion a year. The 2026 estimate is $180 billion. Now, some of that jump is better measurement. They changed the methodology, but nobody's arguing the trend line is going down. And the reason this belongs to us in occupational health is this. Work isn't a neutral backdrop. The same job can be a thing that keeps someone well, structure, purpose, income, and a team that works effectively together. And there are also things that break these links. Excessive workload, no control, bullying, exposure to trauma, a leadership vacuum, and one of the most important ones I'm seeing nowadays is moral injury. We spent a century getting a good guarding people from physical hazards, as my colleagues were mentioning, but the psychological ones have been sitting in plain sight the whole time, and there aren't many effective tools or measurements or programs to address them. Quick but important distinction is required. A psychosocial risks factor is not a stressed employee. It's a feature of how the work is organized and managed that has the potential to cause psychological harm and psychosocial harm. Workload and pace, how much control a person has over their own day, whether their role is clear or do they have to guess, the quality of the leadership above them, whether harassment gets tolerated, whether they are exposed to trauma, and I don't just mean paramedics. Think content moderators. insurance adjusters, court staff, and right now the FIFA World Cup is happening. Think players and how they get abused, not only by the individuals attending the games, but on social media. Why does the distinction matter? Because if you frame mental health at work as a problem inside the worker, your only tools are treatment and resilience addressing the worker. You're forever mopping the floor with the tap running. But if you frame it as a hazard of the work, then suddenly the same toolkit that you are using for everyday hazard applies. You identify it, you assess it, you control it at the source. And this is the part relevant for today. You educate and train the people who create and manage that work. Managers, especially that reframe this whole concept and look at the full picture, are the ones who are going to be successful. So the program has to be built right. So where is the world on this? Closer to consensus than you expect, and it's happening fast. Most of the scaffolding is only about 4 years old. Start with the World Health Organization. In 2022, the WHO issued its first proper guidelines on mental health at work. And what I want you to notice is that what's in them is extremely important to read, because 2 of the 5 headline recommendations are training. Not policy, not perks, training. 1 stream for managers so that they can recognize distress and respond, and frankly, so they stop causing the distress. And 2nd stream for all workers. Alongside the organizational interventions that changes the work itself, individual support, and structured return to work. The WHO and ILO published a companion policy brief the same year that spells out who owns that piece: governments, employers, and unions. Then there is the ISO 45003, published 2021. This one matters to us technically. It's the first global standard that tells an organization how to manage psychosocial risk, and crucially, it does not set off to the side as a wellness document or a wellness tool. It's built to slot straight into the ISO 45001. The occupational health and safety management system organizations already run. So psychosocial hazards gets managed with the same machinery as chemical or machinery guard or any sort of ergonomic issues and so on. Identify, assess, control, review, and actually try to eliminate. And under it all sits the ILO conventions: occupational safety and health, occupational health services, and since 2019, a dedicated convention on violence and harassment at the workplace. I'm not sure if you follow my LinkedIn, but a couple of days ago, I put in a clip with regards to individuals at a hospital in India who were beaten by a family. So the nurse, the doctors, as well as the security people were beaten up badly. And this is not a common occurrence, and it's not only in India, it happens even in Canada, where individuals, especially in healthcare work, can be exposed to extreme physical violence, verbal abuse, and so on and so forth. So the direction of travel internationally is unmistakable. Psychosocial risk is being pulled out of nice to have into the core of occupational health and safety law and standards. Now, let me talk about home, Canada, because Canada was actually ahead of the curve here. And that's the point of pride worth making an international webinar. In 2013, Canada released the National Standard for Psychosocial and Psychological Health and Safety in the Workplace, CSAZ 1003. It was the first of its kind in the world. It names 13 psychosocial factors, things like organizational culture, psychological protection, workload management, clear leadership, recognition, and it gives employers a structured way to work on them. Now it's voluntary. That's the honest limitation. But here's what happened in courts and at the adjudicators level. Increasingly, this is being treated as a yardstick of what a reasonable employer should be doing. So voluntary is quickly becoming expected. And unlike a lot of standards, this one came with tools. Guarding Mind at Work is a free, validated survey that lets an organization actually measure its psychosocial risk instead of guessing. The Mental Health Commission of Canada built a whole training suite around it. The Working Mind, which reduces stigma and builds a practical coping. Mental Health First Aid, which is now the most widely used evidence-based mental health training in the country, and the Assembling the Pieces toolkit for the implementation. The legal backdrop reinforces all of it. In most provinces, the employer's OHS duty to protect health already extends to psychological harm. Ontario's WSIB accepts claims for work-related mental stress, as does WCB Alberta's and other provinces. The human rights laws require accommodation of mental health disabilities up to undue hardship, And so the standard may be voluntary at this time, but obligations around it are getting to the next stage. So this is the heart of it all. So stay with me, because we did mental health training can mean almost anything, from a lot of it is theater. So I'll repeat this again, because when you say or when you hear we did mental health training, it can mean almost anything. And a lot of it is theater. Here's what the evidence points to. First, training has to be tiered. Leaders need to need different tools and content than the frontline teams. The single highest yield investment is manager training. Teach them to recognize when someone is struggling, respond without making it worse, and refer to the right support. I see a lot of issues which are down the line, and they were actually simple psychosocial and simple psychological issues that became quite complex by the time I see them. I don't mind seeing them because they pay the bills, but in all honesty, the loss of money and time and experience is really horrendous. So again, I'll repeat, teaching the managers to recognize that when someone is struggling, respond without making it worse, and refer to the right support in a timely fashion is really cost effective. But, and this is the piece that gets skipped, also train them to reduce the psychosocial hazards they personally control. A manager sets the workload. He sets the workload, sets the tone on harassment, decides how much autonomy people get. There was a LinkedIn post I put a few days ago with regards to a politician from a country that spoke about a player from a different country, and she actually abused him racially. And, the organization and FIFA responded and so on and so forth. If you want to address an issue, the penalty needs to be equitable to the crime, to the violation. So in my opinion, when somebody says a racial slur, if somebody is involved in a racial crime or a hate crime or so on and so forth, the punishment needs to be evaluated so that the punishment can fit the crime. And what we see in the workplaces and so on and so forth, it's usually the person working at a coffee shop or the person who's working on a crane are the ones who quickly lose their job. They get humiliated on social media, and they get posted by newspapers. Whereas the big leaders, the persons who actually have the influence and the ears of hundreds of thousands of millions, if you may not be. So the standards have to be equitable. And I truly believe that the fines need to be equitable to the income of the individual, but that's a different story. Second is train against your own actual risks. This is why the assessment steps matter. Run Guarding Minds or an equivalent first. Find out whether your problem is workload or leadership or harassment or a mix. And then pick your training. Generic off-the-shelf content aimed at nothing in particular changes nothing. Third is skills that you need. Skills beat awareness. Awareness that stress is bad helps no one. Everybody knows that. Stress can be bad, but stress can be also good. It's the degree of stress that can make it bad, the chronicity of the stress that can make it bad, and the lack of recovery that makes it bad. And you can read that in my book if you wish. People need to practice the conversation, practice the response, practice the referral, role play, not slideware. And fourth, and it has to live inside the management system and gets measured over time, the same as the ISO 45003 loop I mentioned. Now, the failure modes quickly becomes the ones that you will recognize. The one-off lunch and learn with no follow-up, resilience training wheeled into a make of toxic workload, the worker's problem to cope with it. That's not prevention, that's blame with a certificate. And the big one, reporting completion rates as if they were outcomes. I know of a company that gives a stress reduction tool that you have to complete within 5 minutes. So people are stressed to complete that stress tool. And if you don't complete that tool, they go on and follow you up and ask you, why didn't you complete the stress rule? Well, you're causing stress from a stress tool. So, and the big one is reporting completion rates, as I said, and 98% completion tells you that people click next without even reading or without even comprehending or without even having a mental image of where they want to be in the future. It tells you nothing about whether anyone is all the safer. So, where are we now? And where does that leave us in 2026? Let me be honest rather than rosy. The awareness battle is basically won. Nobody senior stands up anymore and says mental health isn't a workplace issue. But awareness and implementation are two very different things. 70% of the Canadian workers still say they're worried about the psychological safety of their own workplace, and this gets compounded in bad economy. Most organizations now have a program, a poster, an EAP, a training module, and very few have a system, assessment, targeted intervention, trained managers, measurement, and reviews. And here is a structural problem I see constantly. Mental health at work usually gets parked in human resources or a wellness team, sitting completely apart from the OHS function, and more often than not, with no clinical or occupational medicine input at all. So you get well-meaning programs designed without hazard logic and without medical gardening. My question to all of you is, how many of you have heard, but we spend so much on wellness, but we spend so much on EAP, but we spend so much on pharmaceutical treatments for our workers' mental health? And that's just the formal economy. Globally, more than half of the workforce is in informal work with no OHS protection whatsoever. The people most exposed to psychosocial hazards are frequently the ones our frameworks never reach. Think doctors, think nurses, think emergency departments, think bankers, think those who actually take care not only of work, but have sick children back home or sick parents back home. So real progress genuinely, but deeply uneven and often disconnected from the very expertise that would make it work. So, where do we need to be? 3 things. Psychosocial risk managed with the same rigor as physical hazard. If you know that you're working with X-rays, you will have a radiation protection program at place. If you know that you have a very high noise place, you are better having a noise control and programs in the workplace. And you better have your audiology, and you better have the frequency of the audiology based on the exposures. You have to have control at the source. And you have to have a cycle of audit to review. I'm involved in OHS audits for different companies, and it's amazing what is written and what I see. Training that's tiered, skills-based training built on real data about a real workplace and actually specific to that workplace. And mental health integrated into the OHS system, not bolted onto the side of it. And this is where I'll make the case for our specialty in occupational medicine, because I think we're the missing piece in a lot of these programs. Our Italian colleague from Italy talked about the numbers of specialists. Let me tell you this. In Canada, we have 72 occupational medicine specialists only, and about 1/4 of them might be retiring in the next 5 years. The occupational medicine specialist is one of the very few people in the building who speaks both the languages fluently, the language of health, the language of organization. The clinical one and the organizational one are two important but two very different languages. And we can look at a pattern of disability claims and see the hazard behind it. We can connect a psychosocial exposure to a health outcome, to a prevention strategy, to a safe return to work. We're positioned to keep these programs honest and evidence-based, to be the person in the room who says completion rates aren't outcomes, and resilience training will not fix a workload problem. And we naturally bridge the groups that otherwise talk past each other. Human resources, law, safety, leadership, and the worker, him or herself, as well as the union. If we're at the table, when the training gets designed, it gets designed perfectly with prevention. If we are not, as was the case in COVID-19 in many places in the world, it was too often designed as decoration and based on general population, which is completely different animal altogether. Now, the full picture is in one place. This is an infogram that I was designing over the last few months when Novel talked to me about this call, about this presentation. And you can use it with attribute, please, or connect to me on LinkedIn, and I'll DM you this. This way I can get the traffic into my LinkedIn, and it will serve you well and serve my audience well. So let me leave you with this. We don't have a knowledge gap anymore. We know psychosocial and psychological hazards are hazards. The frameworks are written. The WHO guidelines, the ILO conventions, the ISO 45003, and they are here. They are for us to read, for us to implement. In Canada, we have the CSA Z1003. What we have is an implementation gap, and increasingly a design gap. A design gap that can be better swallowed and better integrated when occupational medicine specialists are involved. Programs built without a hazard logic and without medical grounding are bound to fail. They are lipstick on any animal of your choice. Education and training are the most powerful lever we've got, but only when they are tiered, targeted at real risk, built on skills instead of slogans, and actually are measured. That's a high bar, and it's exactly the kind of bar occupational medicine exists to hold. So my ask is simple of all of these today who are attending this seminar and this webinar. Make sure someone with our training is in the room when these programs are built. That's where the $180 billion start coming down. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jalees, for such a great presentation, for sharing the experience from Canada and also the global vision that we should have as occupational health professionals, prioritizing the mental health and psychosocial risk management inside enterprises. So thank you, and we hope you can also stay with us just a little bit more for the roundtable session. We are just about to start. Okay, so for all the attendees that are still connected, we are going to start a roundtable session which will focus on current challenges for early career professionals and opportunities for improving occupational health and safety education programs. As panelists, we have a very diverse group of early career professionals. We have Dr. Walter Lopez from Peru, Dr. Nicolas Montes de Oca from Argentina, Dr. Mattia Roberto from Italy, Dr. Mierna Reismala from Indonesia, Ms. Jans Babkevics from Poland, Mr. Jans Babkevics from Poland, Ms. Pinky Bhatt from India, and I think that Dr. Dr. Rudy Paredes is also getting connected. We will start this discussion with some of these questions. With the first one, which are the main difficulties you faced while working as a specialist during the first years, and how did you manage to deal with them? So it's open to each one of the panelists. I would like to start the discussion, please.
I can go first, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jans.
So, I hear a bit of echo. Give me 1 second. It should be better. So I think at the beginning, the biggest challenge was the lack of supervision and mentorship. So what I would often find is that when I started working for a consultancy, occupational hygienist, you would be just given tools, manual, and what job is about. So you wouldn't be told how to do the job. It can say something about the consultancy I worked for, but speaking to colleagues from other consultancies, the experience is broadly similar. So that's kind of one thing that I struggled the most in the first few years of my occupational hygiene career.
I can go next, if that's okay.
Please, Miss Pinky. Thank you, Mr. Jans.
Yeah, there's again echo. I know where it's coming from. So for me, I think it was different. I also worked for a consulting company in India, but for me, the challenges were more about the awareness and understanding of industrial hygiene or occupational hygiene. So people used to ask me questions like, "Oh, are you going to check if our nails are clean and cut, and if we are cleaning our teeth properly?" So it was basic of understanding and then explaining them. Like, what is industrial hygiene, what am I doing, and why am I here, and how do I support the organization or the teams. So it was more about the understanding, and the dealing with them was just a lot of talking, a lot of patience, and explaining to them in the language that they understand. Sometimes they were operators, so you're talking to like you match your frequency with them, and then if you're talking to some senior managers or something who really don't understand why you are here and why their company is paying you for doing all this, you have to kind of match your frequency with them and train and explain them how industrial hygiene is going to benefit overall to their organization. So for me, the challenges were more in terms of understanding and awareness of industrial hygiene.
Thank you, Ms. Pinky, and I think that we have Dr. Mattia and Dr. Walter, maybe, that would like to contribute.
Good evening. About the first question, I think my experience was related to the occupational medicine specialty in November, and after a few months, I was employed at the hospital like occupational specialist in occupational health surveillance. And for my experience in my particular case, my difficulty is related to the increased risk, the increased level of responsibility. Professor Lucchini described the actual situation in Italy for the resident, and in Italy are more similar than students. And my actual position is different, and in the past I had a mentor and actual all the responsibility is mine.
Thank you, Dr. Mattia. I think that Dr. Walter was also expecting for participating.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Monroe, and everybody. Looking back at my first year of residency, I can say it was a challenge in the sense that here in Peru, there is still limited awareness about occupational medicine, to the point that when even my fellow residents didn't know about the specialty initially at the beginning. Because it was such as an uncommon pet, adapting took some time and effort. However, the guidance we received from our mentors made a massive difference. I want to take a moment to express my immense gratitude to Dr. Marco Carlos and Dr. Milagritos for their supervision. Furthermore, the strong bond and mutual support among us co-residents become absolutely fundamental to our collective ground. I think that was, and also it was a little difficult to understand another aspects about occupational medicine, like hygiene and other engineering skills.
Thank you, Dr. Walter. Okay, I don't think. Oh, Dr. Nicolas or maybe Dr. Mierna, would you like to also participate on this first question?
Thank you, Dr. Norfield. For us in Indonesia, uh, looking back to what Dr. Lucchini has mentioned, we have very little numbers of occupational medicine and occupational health practitioners. So we really need to establish the system where we work, and we need to educate our stakeholders, and we need to manage the overlapping function and specialties. So we need to admit that we have this overlapping function between OH and OM, for instance, and IH and OM specialists with other specialists. So this is what our tumbling struggles currently. And we need to speak in non-clinical languages to our stakeholders in corporates like HR, finance, and C-level executives. So there is still our homework to be done.
Thank you, Dr. Mierna. Since we have also some attendees that speak Spanish, we also have some of the panelists that can speak Spanish, and if any of you would like to make questions or participating in Spanish, any of the panelists or the attendees, please feel free to do it, and we can help you with the translation. So we also have here Dr. Nicolas from Argentina. Maybe you would like to participate.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Nicolas Montes de Oca. Gracias, Norbert, por la invitación a participar y por permitírmelo hacer en mi idioma de origen. Con respecto a la primera pregunta, yo creo que un gran salto en mi especialidad fue pasar a tomar decisiones sin tanta supervisación por parte de las personas con mayor experiencia. Y esto lo he manejado con templanza, manteniendo la humildad y apoyándome obviamente en el equipo de trabajo, entendiendo que la seguridad se gana día a día. Lamentablemente, por lo menos en Argentina, dentro de la carrera de médico en grado, no hay mucha formación en lo que es medicina del trabajo y no es una especialidad que se toque mucho. Por lo tanto, luego del posgrado, uno va ejerciendo y ganando mucha confianza y seguridad en la toma de decisiones, y mucho se aprende con la experiencia.
Thank you, Dr. Nicolas. Dr. Nicolas, representing Argentina, he shared his experience, pointing out about a little bit flexibility and autonomy in his journey, in his own journey. Of course, it is important the mentorship from seniors and people who, specialists who were his professors, but he felt that he was able to also make decisions and to be like more autonomist in his journey. And also he mentioned and emphasized the importance of the involvement from government and from the universities during all his training journey. So now we are going to, I think that we got the participation from all the panelists. We are going to move to the second question. Which skills, experience, or training have you found most helpful to you in your career so far, and how has it been helpful? For any of the panelists that would like to participate, maybe Mr. Jens or Miss Pinky.
Okay, I can go
Don't
ahead.
go thinking first. I'll go after you. Yeah.
Okay. So I think networking is very, very important. When you meet fellow professionals, you learn a lot. You discuss your concerns, the issues you're facing, and that actually gives you a lot of ideas on how to tackle some of your concerns and how to tackle the issues you're facing. So networking is one. Second, I would say mentoring is something which helped me a lot throughout my journey and career. So always having a good mentor is very helpful. I suppose BOHS, the British Occupational Hygiene Society, have their mentoring scheme. If you're a member, you can get a mentor depending on what you're expecting out of the mentoring relationship, and that really helped me a lot. It opens a lot of avenues for you. It opens a lot of angles and a lot of different thoughts and processes for you. So I think mentoring and networking is something which has helped as external elements. And in terms of skills, I would again reiterate talking to people, asking questions. In terms of industrial hygiene or occupational hygiene, it's very important to get more and more information about the jobs you are doing. So talking and asking questions, maybe being always curious, has helped me a lot.
Okay, thank you. Please, who would like to participate?
I think that
Dr. Mattia or Mr. Jens?
I think the same to my answer is similar, and the networking in our work is very important, and also the possibility to participate at the international and national conference is important for two aspects. The first is known the most expert in the material in the focus, and also for known the other colleagues and change our experience.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mattia. Dr. Jalees would like to participate.
Sure. So, because I see that there are young individuals online, and that's great that you were able to get them in. In my 30 years of work, my advice would be three things. Number one, knowledge in the textbook is different than knowledge outside the textbook. And so one has to be learning from individuals that they trust. The second thing is that train the trainer will fail if the trainer does not know the basics of occupational medicine. So when you're looking for a mentor, be careful and differentiate between who is an academic versus a clinical person versus an industrial person. Each one speaks a different language. At the end of the day, though, when you're meeting with the unions, when you're talking to individuals at their own level, and when you're talking to the C-suite, the language is very different. So the ability to ascend from a medical legal question to an economic question, and the ability to talk about outcomes that are immediate by the needs of C-suite versus national, which are long-term, are very different. Third one is that I heard somebody said that networking is important. Networking is important if you are good in leaving your echo chamber, which means I look at the world in two ways, and I don't want to get into politics, but I'll give you an example that will resonate with you. The world right now is divided into two: CNN versus Fox News. If you will not listen to the other part, you are missing the boat of what the other part is thinking and how to communicate with them. And the ability to talk to a person rather talking at them is extremely important. So these are the things I would suggest. Finally, workers love the physician who rolls up their sleeves and go and work and observe them working. So if an occupational hygienist goes out on the work site, I always love to meet and walk with them and walk with the safety engineers and so on and so forth. The more you know about the intricacies of the work operations, not everywhere, but especially with the big employers, you have a more of a observed and practical respect among the workers. Because not only that you know that there are welders, but you know the difference of types of welding, the difference between a confined space versus open space. You understand the anatomy of wind, where is the wind direction coming from, what is the impact of exposure, and so on and so forth. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks, Dr. Jalees, for sharing the importance of not only the theory but also the experience, and of course to look for the best profile for the mentor, which is very very crucial for our journey on this field. Please, any of the other panelists that would like to participate to this second question? Okay, Dr. Walter, I think he would like to talk. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
thank you so much. Thank you also by Dr. Jalees by the experience. I'm agree with my colleagues, and also I want to I like two main areas that I think that there are skills that very important for me. The first one is the technological tool, because nowadays the AI and also some tools like Excel, Power BI, some kinds of programmation help us to improve our management of the occupational health, and also to manage the big data that we have, and also some soft skills that I've seen doing the residency. Because what I've seen for the company managers and executives is that we need to sell the occupational health, and we need to do some negotiations to improve our work over there. No? I would like to result to tell about it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Walter. Anyone else? Oh, Dr. Mierna, please go on.
Thank you, Dr. Norville. Yeah. Can we lose the echo? Okay. Most of the answer that I would like to say was already stated by Dr. Jalees. So I would like to ask one more, active listening, because in our field, we really need to listen what is the need of our clients, our workers, and the people who work with us. So by active listening, proactively seeking on what we can provide, we can really deliver our value propositions better.
Good point. Very interesting, Dr. Mierna. Thank you. Anyone else from the panelists that would like to participate, or maybe one of the speakers that would also like to contribute on this second question? Also, you can participate in the Spanish. Maybe Dr. Nicolas. Oh, Dr. Roberto, please go ahead.
No, I noticed it's interesting. There's the echo. I think it's you, Norville.
I will put in silent. I will put in silent my microphone. That's all.
Okay. So now I just noticed from the that okay, skills, experience of training most helpful. I cannot hear anybody saying something about direct workplace visiting the workplaces, because in my own experience, let me tell you, that has been probably the most important part, because you know, just having that direct experience with the workers, with the noise, the dust, the sweating, that is something that we're not really used to it unless we've been working ourselves. As I did when I was a student at the university, I had to do some side work, so I experienced that as well. But that was definitely a fundamental part of the training that I experienced, and I'll be interested in hearing the new generation, because it could be that that there's not a lot of possibilities to do it, which could be a problem, because to me that's a very fundamental part. I mean, visiting the workplace, talking to the people, the workers, the employers, the unions, everybody, kind of have a first hand impact with what's inside the workplace.
Roberta, I'll just comment on what you said. It's quite interesting because I had this observation as well. So when I did my master's in occupational hygiene in the UK, it's done on the back of occupational medicine, because occupational hygiene numbers are very low. So it was 2 hygienists and about 30 doctors doing occupational medicine. And that question was asked, how often do you visit the workplace? And none of the doctors raised their hands. And to me, it was very surprising. How can you treat someone if you don't see their exposure? But the nature of occupational physician or occupational health professional job is that they are somewhat disconnected from the workplace physically. So it's very important to make that alliance with occupational hygienists who can provide high quality exposure data to occupational doctor to help them guide in their decision, if the workplace is causing health issue. So I think it's very important to make that good alliance between these two professions.
Absolutely agree. Otherwise, it all becomes something like theoretical, or videos or photo, but that's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Jens. And please, Dr. Jalees, I think you would like to also participate on this question.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Roberto said. I mean, and I said it before, that there are 3 things that you will learn that you will never learn if you don't leave your clinic. Number 1 is the white collar is not, and the white coat is not for you. You're an occupational medicine specialist. You have to be in the dirt. It does not mean that you have to be in the fire itself, but you have to be in the warm area where if there's a disaster, you're able to understand what is the disaster from. The second thing is that actually part of risk assessment is risk management and risk communication. If you don't know what you're dealing with, you'll never be able to answer questions. Things like Is the water making me having more girls than boys? I wanted to have, and these are true cases, by the way, where I sit on the Queen's bench and I'm an expert witness, where individuals can come and say, I drank this water and this is why I'm having 10 girls and not a single boy, or the reverse. It doesn't matter which gender, but these are questions. They talk about estrogenic effects, they talk about androgenic effects, and so on and so forth. And so, not only knowing that what the industry is producing, the second point is if you do not go to the workplace, causation analysis is going to be shot down like nobody else's business. Especially issues like cancer and dermatitis, because one of the most important things that you will need, and my bread and butter and helps me pay the bills, is whether the work exposure caused it, aggravated it, or had no impact. If you don't know the compounds that the individuals work, it's rarely SDSs, it's rarely a single chemical that you're going to be dealing with. It's going to be multiple chemicals, multiple exposures over years of time, the question of occupational hygiene, the question of safety, the question of PPEs, and so on and so forth. You don't have to go and clean a benzene a container to understand what are the benzene effects, but you need to understand why the ppms per hour were initiated and why are they put in place. Because the lowest exposure, there is still risk. So to understand that will help you understand the difference between hazard, exposure, and risk. And so yeah, totally. And I sit on the exam committee of the Royal College. One of the questions are always in the written and in the oral addressing about the industry that I'm expecting you to visit. I'll give you another very important example. Poison centers, when you call them, they are talking about drug poisoning. They have no idea of what is the poisoning in relation to chemicals. They may have some idea about radiation poisoning. As an occupational medicine specialist, your role is in emergencies and crowd emergencies. Because once there's an explosion, God forbid, or there is something, or man-made exposure or something else, you are not only responsible for the people within the fence, which is the industry, but the people without the fence, outside the fence. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jalees. I think that we have one more participation in this question that it comes from Dr. Nicolas that would like to contribute with his perspective. Please, Dr. Nicolas, if you want to make it in Spanish, feel free to do it. We can help you.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes de nuevo. Bueno, respecto a la segunda pregunta, mi comentario va en línea a lo que venimos conversando anteriormente. La verdad que creo que las habilidades blandas, el poder aprender a saber escuchar y poder explicarse con especialidades no médicas, el trabajar en entornos diferentes y con especialidades en grupos interdisciplinarios, es lo que más veo que ha dado frutos en el desempeño de mi especialidad. Y bueno, llevarlo a la práctica real hace conectar la teoría con lo que uno realmente ve en el campo.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nicolas. So he would suggest that trying to connect the theory with what you see in the field, in the real context of workplaces, of work exposure for whole or holistic risk assessment in order to propose real and adequate prevention measures. So thank you to each one of the speakers, and I think that we have a third question that would be tough to, or maybe so difficult to reply, to answer, but it would be very helpful because we have now two generations, like senior and very experimented experts, but we also have the new generation of specialists in this roundtable discussion. So it will be very interesting to listen both sides. So we'll go with this third question, open to each one of the panelists. If you review the curricula of the education and training program you have followed, how would you improve it? It's open to each one of the panelists. Oh, Dr. Mierna, you would like to start?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Norfield. Do you call again? Okay. Still.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to say that our training programs in Indonesia and the curricula of occupational medicine education currently given to us is an ample ammunition for us to practice OCMED in hospitals, companies, whether it is domestic or internationally. But what I would love to see more, and maybe this is the reason why you are having this discussion tonight, is global collaboration. So, like student exchanges, fellowship, or apprenticeship. This will be a good way to bring back knowledge and standards from other parts of the world while introducing our unique occupational medicine knowledge and systems. So, collaboration and maybe international apprenticeship, fellowship, and mentorship. That is what I would like to propose to our um, curricula maker here.
Thank you, Dr. Mierna. Um, maybe Miss Pinky or Mr. Jens or Dr. Mattia or Dr. Walter, who would like to go with this third question?
Okay, I think I go. Well, the curricula here in Peru heavily reinforced the clinical aspects, as point that the majority of the first and second year rotations we do in clinical aspects, right? Like physical medicine, cardiology, pulmonology, and others. We have a gap for the third year where we go to industries, no? But the curricula doesn't complain that aspects because in Peru the residency is made by a university, and for made an external exchange, for example, to go to an oil industry or to a minery, we need to search that that exchange. The university doesn't have that union between the enterprises and the training program, no? So I think specifically for occupational medicine, I think there is a thing that our mentors and that you and others professionals in the university need to see. But in other part, contrasting with Dr. Mierna, for example, we have an international exchange, so I'm happy for that.
I have a short answer related to if it's possible, I increase my experience of a student of occupational medicine student in Ferrara. If possible, I increase the program, the curricula of occupational hygiene and toxicology.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mattia and Dr. Walter. This is like the from the medical perspective, from our early career specialists in occupational medicine. We also have two specialists on occupational hygiene that maybe would like to contribute with your point of view on this question. Or maybe one of our senior speakers that would like to give feedback about participation from our panelists.
I suppose I'm in one of the senior speakers.
I mean, in a very good and important.
Norville. Okay. No problem. So, okay, I think that what should be probably because otherwise the discipline in general can be left a little bit behind compared to the other medical and public health, especially. This is all the tools about artificial intelligence. I mean, this is machine learning. It needs to be utilized also in risk assessment and health surveillance, etc. Because like it or not, this is a booming technology that has, of course, pros and cons. But if we focus on the advantages, obviously it's easy to understand what the advantages can be in terms of collecting data, making a good use of all the data from health surveillance, for example, putting together the data of health surveillance with the any monitoring, biological, environmental, whatever, in a new way. That's to me quite attractive. I already see some of these possibilities, and I believe that rather than being kind of skeptical of thinking, oh, we're not gonna use it because there's a, well, let's try to get into it. My view, personal view, but I see that it's not only my view. Try to get more familiar as you can, being aware of the pros and cons, the limitations and the potential biases and whatever, but definitely try to get skilled, because if we, the new generation especially, can do this, it's probably going to be an advantage in terms of making a good use of a lot of data that are collected. I'm just thinking about health surveillance, all the data not utilized almost. Whatever we can do in terms of teaching the use of some sort of epidemiological approach of trying to get some information about health surveillance, for example, that could not be only a bureaucratic requirement, or we say, okay, I've done this, and simplifying this kind of health surveillance just with the number of workers, men and women, etc., that I have seen. So just try to go beyond that in using the tools. Obviously, this is going to be possible for sure, given that, again, as I said before, there's a lot of limitation, there's a lot of potential problems in terms of, especially of personal information, of course, that we have to be fully aware that behind this tools or the other, we don't know who's there and how personal information can be can be not under our control. That's the potential danger. But I think that more or less everybody is somehow available. So probably the schools and the training program should get into this aspect as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dr. Roberto. Maybe any other one from our Mr. David would also like to, please.
Yes. Well, I should first explain that my professional colleagues Jans and Pinky have both had to leave, so you're stuck with me, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
And I should also preface by saying, as principal examiner for BOHS, I'm in a somewhat biased position in terms of the answering this particular question on the curriculum. But one thing I can talk about is we realized about 2 years ago that those coming for the diploma professional discussion, so that's our most senior award, we realized that they were poorly prepared and didn't know what to expect from the oral examination, and what we were trying to test them on, the competencies we were assessing. So we went through a thorough review of our guidance for candidates and updated that to give them a lot more detailed advice to explain what we were trying to assess. And we also ran what we call diploma day events to actually go through it in some detail and give them examples of the sort of scenarios that they might expect to get, not the ones we would actually give them on the oral, but comparable ones. And that initiative has been successful. Almost all of the people who've been through that and since taken that oral examination have passed. So there's perhaps a lesson there that if we need to prepare our students better for what the examination is going to ask them.
Thanks, Mr. David, for sharing your experience, and well, we also thank Mr. Jansen, Miss Pinky, who were not able to stay connected, but well, we would like to invite any of our other panelists that are still connected. I think we have Dr. Nicolas, who, if you would like to participate in Spanish, we can also help you.
Bueno, en cuanto a la tercera pregunta, yo creo que dentro de las habilidades que uno quisiera por ahí aprender más en el posgrado, en la especialidad, son prácticas reales, simulaciones, habilidades institucionales o las habilidades blandas, digamos, que uno tiene que desempeñar en el futuro. Por ahí podrían ser temas que se toquen más en posgrado. Si bien nosotros también en la carrera de posgrado tratamos de incorporar el uso de la inteligencia artificial en los alumnos y tratamos de desarrollar estas habilidades que van con nuestra generación en sí y que sí, son inevitables, ya está ocurriendo y tenemos que ser parte del cambio. Creo que también poner foco en las habilidades blandas es algo muy importante para desempeñar correctamente nuestra profesión.
Thank you, Dr. Nicolas. Dr. Nicolas pointed out about the needs for real experiences and practical analysis for making decisions, which will be strengthened by maybe workshops inside companies to get closer to the real context in risk exposure. In Argentina, he said that they are using artificial intelligence for the learning process, for teaching methods, but he also thinks that soft skills and other type of abilities should be prioritized in the education programs for occupational and environmental medicine physicians. So thank you, Dr. Nicolas. Well, it's been a very interesting webinar, and the contribution for each one of the speakers and each one of the panelists has been very worthy for each one of us. So thank you, Dr. Roberto, Dr. Jorge Morales, Miss Janet O'Neill, Dr. Jalees Razavi, Mr. David, and each one of our panelists, Dr. Mierna, Mr. Jens, Miss Pinky, Dr. Mattia, Dr. Walter, and Dr. Nicolas, for all your contribution. And of course, thanks to our moderators, two of our ICOH Peru members, Dr. Javier Julca and Dr. Dante Mejia, for all your support during all this webinar. We are going to share the recording of this webinar in our YouTube channel, so please feel free to contact us. We have left a form in the chat, so you can fulfill with your information, and we can contact you to share with you the link for the recording. We invite any of the attendees to, maybe if you want to make any last question or any comment, please feel free to do it before we just say goodbye. And and of course, thanks Dr. Landry for all the support from the Scientific Committee of Education and Training in Occupational Health, and for that this webinar was possible to finally organize and make it.
Thank you, Norville, for putting all this together, and thank you to my committee members who joined, and David as well as Janice. Thanks for agreeing to. I think the discussion has been quite good, insightful, and quite a lot to reflect on. So I really appreciate the contributions from all the panelist speakers, and thank you all for your attention as well. Look forward to seeing anyone who is able to make it to ICOH 2027 Mumbai.
Looking forward to make it. Thank you so much, Dr. Landry, and all the attendees. So we look forward to see you soon. Have a nice afternoon or evening or morning. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.